Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. Another paid request. This time for iLiveAgain1. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos or topics or reactions, tier lists, re-reviews, whatever, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for 7 Hours to Judgment from 1988 or so. So it stars a guy named Beau Bridges, who of course is related to Jeff Bridges. And Beau Bridges never got the success of Jeff, but he's been in a few stuff. He was the dad in the film The Wizard, where the kids have to go to that Nintendo tournament championship. And the one kid's like, the power glove, it's so bad, that movie. Beau Bridges played the dad in that movie. He also played the dad in Sidekicks with Chuck Norris. He'd been in a few films here and there. Not only does he star in this film, but he directs it. And pretty much the gist of the movie is he's a judge. And, he's doing the best that he can, but there's this court trial where this gang more than likely attacked and killed this woman on a subway, but the DA sadly have not supplied efficient evidence. So he doesn't want to, but he has to let them go, even though he's against it. But that's the letter of the law. So the woman's husband, which at first the lady was in a coma, but she later on died from it, he's pissed off and wants revenge, in particular the judge. So one thing leads to another. He kidnaps him and his wife, says, you have 7 hours to go find this evidence that I had asked you. Please hold off on doing this trial. I have a witness. I can get some information, some evidence that will get this game locked up. And Beau Bridges told him, why don't you go to the cops? Why don't you go to the DA? He doesn't give an answer as to why. It's a good question. But why don't you go to the cops? Why don't you go to the DA? Why don't you go to the attorneys? But you don't. So you don't do what you could. Instead, you just blame the judge who can't really fucking do anything. And he's not being mean, and Beau Bridges not being rude. And I mean, he's even worried about this where, although this is a pretty silly, over-the-top way of showcasing it, the first fucking scene is this big dream sequence, a nightmare sequence, where the camera's swirling all around as if Beau Bridges wants to say, look at me as a director, look what I can do. I can swirl the camera all around. I can swirl it all around like this. And the wind is blowing as if there's a damn exorcism ready to happen. And he opens up a door. When he opens up the door, he's all of a sudden on a subway car. And he sees the woman being attacked, but he can't stop it. And he wakes up. It's a nightmare. And being very melodramatic in its nightmare style. And again, the trial thing happens. And again, him and his wife are kidnapped. And the guy says, listen, you have 7 hours to go get this evidence that this guy has. It's at this address, or you talk to these people. When you do, get back here, let you guys go. If not, I'll go and kill her, and then I'm going to kill you. Now, a number of things. Number one, Beau Bridges is not bad acting-wise, but at the same time, he still feels miscast. I mean, if this was his brother Jeff Bridges, or if it was James Spader, if it was Eric Roberts, if it was, I think, a number of other actors, I think you could have felt more of the tension, a bit more of the oomph to the character. I just don't know. I think Beau Bridges is fine as an actor. I just don't know if he has that gravitas to be a leading man role. He did a good job in the supporting role of this film I reviewed. I forget what it was. The incident from back in the day. I think it was what the 60s or 70s, where it was a very young Martin Sheen and these two hoodlums take over the subway car, and Beau Bridges is good in that scene, in that movie, a supporting role, but even that, the way he was in that, if his character was like that, if his character in this movie was like his character in that movie, where that character was in the military and he stands toe to toe and he's got one arm, but he's taking on these two guys. If the character had that bit of grit to him, or that bit of oomph to stand on his own 2 feet, and didn't feel like a fucking pushover the entire damn time, maybe it could have worked a bit better. It doesn't help that the guy who plays the villain, at times he gets very hammy, literally screaming, "Tit-talk, tit-talk, tit-talk." And then he has this big simpleton as a henchman called Ira, who's like, "Hey, Davey, how'd it go?" That's not much up there. Not much at home up there. And the thing is, for this kind of film, you would imagine you have a time crunch, you have a limited amount of time. Excuse me. You would think, okay, you're going to get a lot of tension and suspense because of that. But you really don't, because the 7 hours, you never really feel it go by. Because when you have this type of time crunch, you need to really tighten the screws as each hour passes. Look at watches, look at clocks, look at this and that. Oh my God, there's 5 hours left. There's 4.5 hours left. There's 3.5 hours left. Oh my God, there's only 2 hours left. Oh my God, you really need to make that screws tighten more and more to get the audience really invested. But that didn't really happen. And then really at the end of the day, he really doesn't go through much. Spoiler alert, he just dropped off. It's like, okay, he gets out, gets in a cab, he doesn't have money, which, that's the thing with this bad guy. You want him to get this evidence because it'll prove what happened to your wife. But then you'd go an hour your way to do things that this evidence could easily get lost or never get found at all. Like, if you want him to get this evidence, why don't you let him have the money? Make sure he has his money to be able to get there. But I guess it's this whole thing of this mind fuck to have him be in the city that he made. So he doesn't have the money for a cab, so he can't take it. He meets with these people who rough him up a bit, take his shirt, take his watch, his stuff. Here's the info. Did it out in this toilet that's been pissed in. The only other things that happen, he gets to the subway, has to go underground, and a group of people grab him, including an old lady licking his face. He gets away. And then he finds a guy who wants $1,000, and he's like, "I don't have it, I need that info." They get in a bit of a scuffle. Beau Bridges knocks him the fuck down. You have the right to remain silent. Your fee is, and then he'll take some of his money, like $15. Gets the evidence, which is this purse that's going to have the Gaines fingerprints on it. Which, granted, couldn't they say, well, well, it depends. If the gang said they never touched the purse, then yeah, maybe it could be proven, but anyway. But that's really all the ordeal he goes through. Until you get to the third act, where now the bad guy calls the gang that killed his wife and says, "Hey, this judge that got you guys off, he has evidence, and he's at this location." So here's a question for you. What if the gang got to Beau Bridges, they were able to grab him, stab the shit out of him, take the purse, burn it, dump it, go off their merry way? Then what? Wouldn't they get away with, "Hey, Mr. Villain, wouldn't the gang that murdered your wife get away with it now because you've given them inadvertent, well, might as well inadvertently, give them the one evidence that could have put them away. And if your plan was, well, I'm going to make sure Beau Bridges is going to get here and that the Dane will follow him and I'll take care of the Dane, how you know Beau Bridges would get there? I did. What if he stumbled and fell on the subway track? He got electrocuted. What if they grabbed him? They stabbed the shit out of him. What if he was dead? Then what would your plan be then, Mr. Villain? Seems like a very flawed plan. Especially when you would think the first thing he would go after were, am the people that killed. Like law-abiding citizen, that made a bit more sense in the fact of who are the first people Gerard Butler went after? The people that killed his family. He took care of them first. Then he worked around and... But this, it felt like it was doing shit backwards. So, okay, you don't really care about the evidence. You just want to fuck around with the judge who, again, why didn't you go to the DA? Why don't you blame the DA? Why don't you blame the attorney? Wouldn't you be blaming him more? Because he didn't put up a good case? And if you told the DA and they said no, well, wouldn't they be more at fault than the judge? So that's when this guy, the villain, just comes off as a fucking moron. And then he's a super comic book villain. Because this is big when Beau Bridges, when he gets the purse, he looks to the left in one of those stores with a bunch of TVs, and there's him, the bad guy, on the TV. I guess because he's a electronic store owner. That also means he can hack into these fucking TVs that are right by the store that Beau Bridges walked by, and knows where he's at the exact time and frame, so he's a hacker. And then when Beau Bridges gets there, now there's supposed to be like these booby traps, and he also colored himself as a standee of him as a comic book superhero. Like there's a standee of the villain in like a almost Superman garb. And he even has on his fucking TV screen like a Nintendo version of his place. Like literally there's a screen where he's got these booby traps and he's pushing buttons to try to kill Beau Bridges, and you see on the screen kind of reminds me of this stuff is Superman 3. But Superman 3 has a bit of tongue-in-cheek to it, to be fair. This didn't seem like it was. So yeah, this guy took the time to making all these booby traps, to making a video game on his TV, or a diagram that looked like a Nintendo game, to painting himself in a superhero garb for standees. Like, okay, this is like really goofy and silly now. Do you imagine the ending of The Specialist when they got to the... Remember that Stallone movie? James Spader just had... James Spader. That'd be cool if James Spader was in it. James Spader versus James Woods. That'd be cool. James Spader versus James Woods. The two James. That should have been... I like Sylvester Stallone. You know how much I love Stallone, but James Spader versus James Woods would have been pretty cool in that. But James Woods, I mean, imagine James Woods, the villain, if he just had standees and superhero versions of himself around. You'd be like, what the fuck's going on? Or imagine if Stallone, when he did these bombs, he had a screen, and the screen looked like a Nintendo game, and the guy's like walking to the bomb, and then, you know, he's got the thing, and then it cuts to the computer screen, game over. You'd be like, what the fuck? Like, you know, if they get the judge and the purse, then your evidence is gone, but I guess you don't care. So the excitement of the film that you could be showcased in the trailers is before he gets back to the bad guy's lair, the Dane chases him through the subway. He Beau Bridges gets on the subway track. One of the Dane members gets electrocuted. Then he's able to get a cab, and some Dane members are in another vehicle, and there's a bit of a car chase, where it ends with one of the cars flipping over. And then the few remaining Dane members follow Beau Bridges to the bad guy's lair, where you might as well call him fucking Lurch, but the big simpleton Ira kills one guy by giving him like the bear hug of death. Going to fight the other guy, the leader of the gang. Cut to Beau Bridges deal with some of these booby traps. Getting his wife. So I'm just telling every bit of it because I don't care. The gang member arrives. He killed wannabe Lurch. He's like, give me the purse. He gets shot, killed by the bad guy, and then the bad guy gets distracted. Him and Beau Bridges fight. And Beau Bridges doesn't even give much of like a good beating on the bad guy. Punches, kicks, no. Pretty much they're going back and forth, and Beau Bridges does this. Just throws his hands up. And the bad guy trips and falls. And I guess the boxes on the bottom, I guess they were filled with spears? But they couldn't afford like a cool effect where the spears are through him and it's bloody. It's literally the guy's lying there, and there's a spear here, and there's a spear under his armpit, and there's like spears below him, but you can't have any spears through him. Which, I mean, that'd be a nice, at least a little bit graphic way to showcase, but no. Guess it wasn't in the budget or whatever. And the soundtrack, at times you get these out of the blue, like guitar tracks. And that's the thing, that they said there's no suspense or tension. It doesn't, there are times where I'm like, wait, this many hours have gone by? It feels like he just started, he did like 2 things, and all of a sudden, there's only an hour left. Where did the other hours go? 6 hours. Let's say before the big finale, he only does like 3 things. Really. A cost in the bathroom and have to fish for something in the pissy toilet. Licked by a homeless woman. Licked on his face by a homeless woman. And fight a person to grab this evidence purse and then leave. Really, that's the majority of it. And then again, the stuff with the gang and then the stuff at the end. Like I said, the villain at times is a bit hammy. To talk. The other supporting actors, really not much to say about them. Beau Bridges has a buddy who he jogs with. He's only in there so that later on he tries to call his buddy, but he doesn't get to say anything. But I guess that doesn't matter because the guy goes in and kills his buddy off screen anyway. Because he follows the guy, then you hear a gunshot. So his buddy's only there to die off screen. The wife character, I mean, for most of the film, she's just locked up. She's just tied up or locked up or wants to escape. They get this Ira, trick him to escape, but he's not having it. He's a simpleton, Lurch wannabe jackass. And again, Beau Bridges just, again, I don't know if he was the right lead for this role either. Maybe not the right director either. It just fell very, very flat for me. I mean, a film that did this much better is a film like The Star Chamber with Michael Douglas. Or even to extend Law Abiding Citizen, among other movies. I think even like Premium Rush, I don't know, I think of Premium Rush as a movie that I think there's like certain pieces of evidence, and it just felt like much more of this race against time. You felt more tension and excitement through that movie. Underrated film, Premium Rush. Just a lot of the better films of this ilk That one had Premium Rush had Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I believe, in it, and Michael Shannon as your villain. Anyway, this film just, like I said, fell flat. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.